What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we've got all kind of stuff going on today. We've been hit with a lot of news. Of course, you might not have heard about it because the mainstream news, they don't want to talk about things like, I don't know, U.S. economic growth too slow in the next 30 years, fueled by debt and declining birth rates, CBO says. Or they don't want to talk about Justice Department eyes combining ATF and DEA as part of a broad restructuring. That's big news, folks. Donald Trump cuts off U.S. funding to World Trade Organization. What to know? You would figure this would be at top of mind. Or possibly toddler slips through White House fence, is carried out by Secret Service in a heartwarming moment where the Secret Service agent brings what appears to be a 3 or 4-year-old back to meet up with its parents. Meet up with his parents. I'm sorry, I said it. I apologize for that. But you know what? They don't want to talk about these things because these things are important to people like you and I. These are the things that we need to know to fuel our everyday lives, to know how we're going to go about spending our day. Are we going to worry about the future of this nation? Are we going to have to worry about our children's future? Are we going to have to worry about economic collapse? What are we having to worry about? But they don't want to talk about those things because the only thing they want to discuss is this.
Do you believe that a mistake was made here, though, to have this conversation, to add a reporter, and to have it on an unsupported, classified group setting?
Kaitlin, as I've just told you, I've just answered the question. I wasn't part of it. And, I'm not going to speculate more than what the president's already talked about and those who've been involved have talked about. But we'd love to talk about the veterans.
Yeah, and I do have questions about the veterans, but given what we saw with the group chat and how this was used, you are a member of the cabinet. You obviously know these other members, several of them who were in there. Is this typical for the cabinet to have conversations over Signal? Is this something that you use?
Well, Kaitlin, since you undoubtedly do not want to talk about the VA, I have a question as VA Secretary. As cabinet, I want to ask you, because I've been curious about this, because my job is to take care of veterans, and I would like to know why CNN is hostile to veterans, especially one in Florida where you just had a $5 million defamation suit taking offense at a veteran who was trying to help people. In fact, one of your employees actually said, we're going to nail him. I have a question for you, Kaitlin. Is that employee still employed? Are you really concerned about veterans? So if we don't want to talk about veterans now, you want to talk about everything else, I'd like to hear from CNN as the veteran cabinet secretary why CNN seems to have a problem with veterans.
Well, Mr. Secretary, respectfully, my question was about whether or not you as a member of the cabinet use this. And respectfully, I'm conducting the investigation. And I do have a lot of questions for you on Veterans Affairs, but I don't think it would be unwarranted to ask
what you want to do is talk about a subject that I've already answered. And if you want to continue this like this, that's fine. But there are VA employees who are working very hard. There are veterans who get their care from the VA and they get their benefits from the VA. And it does me no good to speculate on something that I've already asked and answered. So I've asked and answered your question. Why don't you answer mine? Is this person still employed who said they were going to nail one of my veterans, who you had to do a $5 million award from a jury because of defamation, and then you settled the case? Answer my question.
Respectfully, sir, I'm asking the questions here, and I have no involvement in what you're referencing there. But if you don't want to answer the question about whether or not...
Now, I couldn't get the full clip because people are posting this thing all over the place, and the actual full clip, I watched it, but didn't think to record it at the time because it wasn't nothing at the time. But she starts out asking about Signalgate. This is all they want to freaking talk about. But he respectfully answers the question right off the top. He says, look, I had nothing to do with that. Blah, 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 blah. It was a mistake. He shouldn't have done it. I don't know if he's going to be fired. He answers her question. Then she gets back into it again, and continues on about this. You love right in the middle of that. She's like, I'm trying to conduct an investigation. No, you're not. You're just wanting viral clips. You're wanting to say, and this is what they always do. Oh, well, you don't want to answer the question. They love doing that when they ask ridiculously nonsensical questions, right? Left-wing, ideologically driven questions that make absolutely no sense in the broader context of the conversation that's actually going on. But notice she gets all defensive right there, and she can't answer the question. But what's funny about that, what is so hilarious, the blatant hypocrisy here, is that right toward the end, I don't know if you picked up on it, rewind it if you need to, but he's grilling her about the CNN defaming some veterans over here, getting sued for it, losing money. And she's like, I had nothing to do with that. And when I heard that, I'm like, gotcha, bitch. I'm like, gotcha. Neither did he. He had nothing to do with Signalgate, so why are you grilling this guy about Signalgate? Oh, you're trying to conduct an investigation. Shut your mouth. You're trying to get viral clips, and you just got your butt handed to you on a silver platter. It's lovely. They don't want to talk about news, folks. That is not what they're there for. They're there for the viral clicks, right? That's all they want is clicks. They want this viral moment here. They want to get the I gotcha questions type of stuff, get all that in, and batter some people, Republicans generally speaking, just batter Republicans, make them look evil, right? This always, every time they bring Republicans on and do this, exposes them for the partisan hacks that they actually are. And this is why I can't stand the mainstream narrative machine, as I colloquially call them, because they are absurd. They don't ask genuine questions. They don't conduct investigations. I'm sorry, Kaitlin, that is not an investigation. You asked a ridiculous question, repeated the question continually after the guy already said, I don't have any answers for you. I can't further your investigation. My opinion, yeah, it was a mistake. He probably shouldn't have done that. And move on from that, right? But no, what does she want to do? She wants to get you don't want to answer my question nonsense out of the way. I just love how these people can push back. You know, when you get somebody in there that's really good and can actually push back, you gotta love it, y'all. You gotta love it. But we got some more scandalous information, I guess. I was on Mediaite this afternoon, and I came across a diamond in the rough, if you will. Check this out, y'all. New book reveals Dems drew up plans to replace Biden as early as 2023. Harris aides thought he might die in office. I laughed my full head off when I saw that. Okay, so these are the exact same people that kept telling us, oh no, everything is fine. Joe Biden's a dynamo in the background. I know you guys remember this.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with him.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I can testify because I've been working very closely with this president for the past 2 years. I've been knowing him for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
Joe Biden has vision. He has knowledge. He has a strategic thinker.
The president is focused. He's detail-oriented. He's always thinking about the big picture.
He is engaging. He is capable. He has an incredible record as president.
And I'm often with him on foreign trips. He's at the top of his game.
The very same people were telling us he's fine, were drawing up plans to replace him because they weren't even sure he was going to make it all the way to the end, folks. This is absurd. Let's get into this. A forthcoming book claims Democrats began planning for the possibility former President Joe Biden was unfit to serve a second White House term as early as January 2023, while some thought he might die before his term was up. You gotta love that. Oh, they're just claiming this. It's not true. Everybody could see that Joe Biden was having some cognitive issues, and he was fumbling and stumbling and bumbling all over the place. It wasn't a secret. And it's so funny. These people, once again, exposing themselves as partisan hacks every time they get out there and try to claim otherwise. It's just funny as heck. And you gotta love some of these people coming out with books about the media cover-up. As a matter of fact, it's a CNN correspondent. Can't think of his name right off the top of my head. But we all know who it is. Sorry, I'm having trouble recalling his name right off. But let's keep going, screw it. According to The Guardian, which viewed excerpts of Fight. It could be from, it doesn't really matter. Inside the wildest battle for the White House, some Democrats close to the then president were reportedly prepared to replace him at the top of the 2024 ticket 18 months before he dropped out of the race. The outlet reviewed the book by authors Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnas ahead of its release next Tuesday, so y'all remember that. Fight promises an inside look at the Biden, Harris, and Trump campaigns during the 2024 battle for the White House, arguably the most consequential contest in American history. That is right. If we would have lost to Kamala Harris, it would have been, I don't know, we would not be in a very good place. We'd be continuing the downhill spiral. Of course, a lot of people, Democrats, they think, as soon as Donald Trump came into office, all of a sudden the economy went from everything's fine, it's booming, to it's in the gutter. What's going on? It's bad, y'all. It's really bad. I'm sorry. The economy is not a switch. You can't just flip like that and start saying the economy's bad, everything is terrible. Oh, look at Donald Trump. It's like, are you people serious here? Do you think that we have goldfish memory? Like, we really don't have goldfish memory. Well, some people do. My memory's not all that great. But at least I can remember these people shifting just almost instantaneously as soon as Donald Trump came into office. Oh, everything is bad now. The days before that, the federal government's great. Everything is going swimmingly. Don't look over here at this data that we messed with. Right? And then, boom, all of a sudden everything's bad. It's funny, y'all. Funny. Per Guardian's early look, the book claims some top Democrats had doubts Biden would make it to November 2024, while aides for then Vice President Kamala Harris were prepared for the possibility Biden could die in office. And, those few paragraphs right there were pretty much them just repeating themselves. Of course, I do that as well, so I'm not trying to point them out. However, these people, they do have time. They type all this stuff out. It's not like me, where I do a little bit of research and then I come out here and hit the record button and start talking, right? Sometimes I'm going to repeat myself. I'm not sitting in front of a computer typing all this stuff out and can actually go back and listen to what I said a few minutes ago to make sure I don't repeat myself, as they can go back and look and see what they wrote. So them repeating themselves makes me feel better about sometimes repeating myself, because them repeating themselves makes me feel a whole lot better that when I repeat myself, I might accidentally repeat myself sometimes. So when they do it, it's okay that I know y'all see what I'm trying to do here. The outlet reported Democratic officials staged hush-hush talks to plan for Joe Biden's withdrawal as the party's presidential nominee as early as 2023, says a new book. Once again, isn't this like information that they already said? You gotta love how they fluff these articles up. But I just love this because it once again it exposes the corporate press and exposes their bias on a lot of this. Because if you're having to repeat yourself that many times, you're having to fluff this thing out. That shows that you're trying to fill up some area here. What does that mean? Well, the longer the article is, the more ads they can inject into that news article, so the more money they can make off of it. Now, I do understand, corporate press outlets, they pretty much base a lot of their money on, some subscriptions, but, the New York Times, Washington Post, and all them, they're the only ones that make bank off subscriptions. Like Mediaite, they make most of their money off of ads. So, yeah, I kind of understand it a little bit. But you know what? If you want to be factual, hey, go ahead, add some context to this and get some quotes from some Democratic leaders, some Republican leaders, and add those in there instead of fluffing it out with repetitive nonsense. But, that's just me. That's what I would do. I would get quotes from people making statements at the time to fluff my article out instead of just repeating myself and just wording the paragraph a little bit differently. But, that's just me. Maybe I make too much sense. I have no idea. Y'all let me know down in the comments section. More startling still, the book also reports that aides to Kamala Harris, the vice president who assumed the nomination, then lost to Trump, strategized around the possibility that Biden might die in office. Such Planning was led by Jamal Simmons, Harris's White House communications director. Parnas and Allen report, and went as far as the drawing up of a death pool roster of federal judges who might swear Harris in. That's funny. A death pool roster of federal judges. I wonder what that could be about. I wonder if that has anything to do with all these activist judges they've been inserting into the circuit over the past couple of years, ever since Biden was in office. I wonder if that hasn't. I'm sure it does. Of course, people have friends, and, you know, when you have friends in high places, I'm just saying. Simmons never told the vice president about the death pool roster before leaving our camp in January 2023, the authors write. But he advised colleagues that he should be notified immediately if something happened to Biden, because he had worked out an entire communication strategy and he left the spreadsheet with another Harris aide. Funny that is. Per the book, as Republicans seized on examples they said were proof Biden was cognitively compromised, Democrats publicly disagreed, but privately scrambled to create scenarios to replace him if he could not continue. Yes, we've heard this over and over again, but you know what's funny about that is why? That's what I really want to know about all of this. Why were these people so hell-bent on Biden being the guy, right? They had plenty of other popular Democrats at the time, right? And plus, you know, you get out there with the corporate press, they can make anybody a superstar, for crying out loud. Like I always talk about Dean Phillips. This guy was a moderate. But the problem with Dean Phillips, he wasn't part of the establishment. You had RFK Jr. He started out running as a Democrat. But once again, he's kind of anti-establishment, so they couldn't go with him. They didn't have anybody, but once again, they could have made somebody. It didn't really matter. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, they could have made somebody. Democrats could have got together and said, look, we've got a problem. We need to take Joe Biden out. But then, once again, that would be admitting that all this rhetoric that they've been spouting on corporate news would have been lies outright. And these people don't want to get caught in their own lies, even though, you know, we all know that once you start a chain of lies, you have to continue that chain. Otherwise, you get a break in the chain, and then people, you know, you get exposed for being a hack, which they're constantly getting exposed. So I don't know why they try to repeat the same nonsense. Lie, 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 deflect. That's all they do. Every accusation is a confession with these people. I know that had nothing to do with anything, but I love saying that because it is so applicable to Democrats, because they always get out there and say, oh, we got a constitutional crisis because of Trump. Oh, Trump's a fascist. Well, hang on. Who was the one that tried to force people to get a vaccine they didn't want? Who got rid of, get this, federal employees, military service members because they didn't want to take a vaccine? Hang on, we didn't have any of these groups suing the federal government to stop this, did we? Did none of these activist groups that are suing the Trump administration sued the Biden administration to stop him from firing people that did not want to get a vaccine? Yeah, this shows blatant hypocrisy in a lot of these groups, y'all. A lot of these groups. And I just love pointing that stuff out because, once again, we are here to expose the blatant hypocrisy. They wanted to make sure the party was ready for every possible circumstance. If Biden launched his campaign, then stepped aside before the primaries, if he won a bunch of primaries and then could not continue, the book claims. If he secured enough delegates for winning the nomination but dropped out before winning a floor vote at the convention, which is a joke, by the way, and if he left a vacancy at the top of the ticket after taking the nomination. Ooh, yeah. That's a joke, right? Like going to the floor at the party convention, the DNC. That's an absolute joke. Are you kidding me? As if, once again, we have goldfish memory and don't remember what you guys did to Bernie Sanders in 2016. As a matter of fact, I looked heavily into Bernie Sanders. I liked Trump a little bit more, but once again, I didn't really pay much attention to politics back then, so it was like, you know, I like Trump's brash style. So I was Trump all the way back then, but, you know, I looked really hard into Bernie. But Bernie just didn't have that charisma. But I liked his platform, to be honest with you. It wasn't bad. Go after the millionaires and billionaires. But you notice something about Bernie. He's dropped that whole millionaires thing. Yeah, he capitulated and bent the knee to the Democratic Party. And he became a billionaire. He wrote a book. Became a millionaire. And now all he says is the billionaires. It's crazy, y'all. It's crazy, the blatant hypocrisy that is constantly on display with Democrats. And, you know, putting up Biden like this, I just don't get it. Why did they not just say, you know, tell Biden, look, blah, whatever. Why didn't the Democratic leadership, you know, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer and the like, Gavin Newsom, and all these people, go to the corporate press, go somewhere, because they're doing it now. Don't act like they're not coalesced and organized to go out and send these messages to the corporate press, because they absolutely do that. But why did they not go and push somebody else? Gretchen Whitmer, Dean Phillips. They most certainly could have took Dean Phillips and turned him into a freaking superstar and said, hey, look, Biden, hey, this guy could beat you. You're getting kind of old. Why don't you go ahead and drop out, buddy? Yeah, they could have done that. They could have absolutely done that. Could have talked Joe, like, you know, much earlier before the campaign. Talked Joe into, look, why don't you step aside? You're getting old, buddy. I'm sure he would have understood. Take somebody like Dean Phillips, a Democrat, and he's a moderate, by the way. He could have beat Donald Trump, to be honest with you. If they would have gave him the time needed and the necessary backing from the mainstream news, I bet you he would have got a lot of independence, because he was actually sane with a lot of his rhetoric, right? I don't know his voting record, so I can't really say. But, you know, watching him in the primaries, I was worried for a minute. I was honestly worried, because I was like, this guy's sharp. He's a moderate. He could win a lot of independent voters. You know, Democrats, they're going to vote blue no matter who, right? It's the independents that you have to win over. Right, so he could have won a lot of independents over. I think he would have beat Trump, to be honest with you, if they would have gotten the time, like I said, and came out. If they would have just given him a chance. But once again, he's not one of these just say whatever the party line says. No, he was in opposition to some of the Democratic Party's policy positions, right? He was in opposition to some of those. He wasn't all pushing the trans stuff. He wasn't all pushing the open border stuff. You know, he was actually sane. Said, yeah, we need to have some border security. But he was trying to push that, you know, with the old adage of, oh, our immigration system is broken. Which, you know, I've repeated that talking point before. But, you know, looking into it a lot further, and as time has gone on, I've seen that, no, it's not broken, actually. Newsflash, right? It's really not. It was designed in that way for that reason, to only allow so many people to come in at a certain time. But, you know, that's getting off topic here. I just love how the Democratic Party, they just are so blind to what's going on the ground. They are supposed to be the party of the average, everyday folks, right? The working class, the unions. They've got all the unions. But what's funny about that is, if y'all remember back from the election cycle, you know, the unions, they all endorsed Democrats most of the time, which this cycle was a little bit different. They didn't. Some of them didn't, which was crazy, outright crazy. But you look at the polling from the unions themselves, like the actual workers, majority Trump, straight up, majority Trump. Oh, over 50% for most of them, which was absurd. It's crazy. You got the union endorsing Democrats, Kamala Harris, and then the actual union members, for the most part, endorse Donald Trump. That's interesting, right? So interesting, that is. But once again, I'm rambling at this point, but I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all of this down in the comment section. Blows my freaking mind. I know I always say that, don't I? And I'm trying to not say that, but, you know, it really does blow my mind. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. My mind is constantly blown by just Democrats and their rhetoric. And it's like they think people don't... They think people memory hole everything. It's what it's like. Oh, did you think we were going to forget that Joe Biden was a grapefruit? Did you think we were going to forget that? Did you think that he was actually going to be able to win? Did you really think that you could put a corpse onto a debate stage with Donald Trump? Right? Did they really think that they hear this rhetoric from the leftist media that, oh, Donald Trump has cognitive decline as well? Did they think that they were just going to put two geriatrics up there with cognitive decline, equal amounts, and everything be just fine? Right? This is the lies of these people, and it's insane. Trump's cognitive decline is hardly noticeable. It's got to be there, to be honest with you. Like, I'm willing to admit that. It's got to be there. But you don't see it very much, do you? Oh, and they try to point out, word slip-ups. And you know how much Trump talks? Of course he's going to make some slip-ups. Just saying. But, trying to end the video. Y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.